Hi, yeah, I just had a couple questions. One around the accreditation of the labs. You talked about a lab in Prince Edward Island, one in Norway, and you're having to send fish. Who accredits those labs? Who gives them their accreditation?
It's
the first question.
Yeah, so that's the Office of International Epizootics, the OIE, which is a division, the animal health division of the World Trade Organization.
And why does the federal government then prefer their own lab? To start with the one question. The other is, you had mentioned at some point in the film that you should have a lab on the West Coast. And there are a lot of sports fishermen in BC, and I'm sure you've liaised with them, with many of those organizations. And I'm sure that if we were to liaise with those groups, that you could raise funds to build a lab on the West Coast. But my point is, well, why would we do it if it would get accredited internationally but not be recognized by our own government?
That's an excellent question, thank you. Because the science that Dr. Miller is doing, the genomic profiling, is cutting edge. And there's a very powerful organization called Genome BC, which is very much trying to promote this technology. We should all have genomic profiling done on us because we would know what the first cell that turns cancerous in our bodies. But the lab I want to build would do genomic profiling. But it would have to be overseen by Dr. Miller, because at this moment in time, I don't trust anybody else in government. And this technology is so new. I mean, I read everything she wrote in the commission documents, and she's trying to figure it out. It's a brand new science. So she can test for 200 pathogens, or 40 pathogens a day and 200 fish. So I'm using old technology with Dr. Kabenge and Dr. Nyland. But an important technology. But I would like to ramp up. We have the leading fish immune system reader right here, on Vancouver Island, and she's locked up. Now, recently she did get a project going, but nobody's allowed to submit tissue to her, and we won't hear the results of that till 2017, and it's fettered. There needs to be a private lab for this type of technology.
Do you have a cost idea of what that would run a lab like that, or how to set it up?
Well, to attract the caliber of researchers, that's the big expense, and you need to sort of promise them a 10-year period of time. So you're looking at approximately $20 million. But I'm wondering if there's ways around that. If you started with people that weren't experts in the field, but it was overseen by the experts, and every step of the way it was checked and validated by the other labs, because the way I see the Department of the Wild Salmon is all the groups that are already out there in the rivers would do the work, but we would talk to each other. So everybody's counting the salmon in the same way, sampling the salmon in the same way, and getting these samples stored in absolutely primo condition. And then you could check the Fraser sockeye at intervals of 100 kilometers all the way down the Fraser River and then all the way up to Prince Rupert. And then you could see where they're running into problems. Because you not only can look at viruses that way, you can see if they face pollutants, or they fed really well, or they face an algae bloom, or high water temperature. You could really read them. And then you get that information from the labs, and you distribute that information freely to universities. And these young whippersnapper mathematical modelers, oh my gosh, I did not believe in mathematical modeling until it started to happen in my home in Echo Bay. And it's incredible. They take numbers and they can tell you the story. And so we have salmon populations flashing up and down all over in kind of this erratic heartbeat. We could figure out what that was saying. And there's things we can change and there's things we can't change, but we could definitely pinpoint the things that we can change, and instead of blundering around with save the salmon, save the salmon, we could figure out what they need exactly for us to do. Because really all they need for us to do is get out of their way, but we could figure out where. And I have no doubt we could have both wild salmon and humans in British Columbia. Okay, great questions. I am writing to the US FDA. They're not responding to me. I'm writing to US senators. They were very concerned about ISA in the beginning. And I'm really trying to support some groups down in Washington State to test BC farm salmon in the supermarkets. They need to do it. It needs to be American test. Whether the salmon will come back. So there's been a couple of times when fallow routes were created, either intentionally or by mistake. And the best example was when I first discovered the lice in 2001. The government responded in an extraordinary way and told me they would follow the migration route of the juvenile salmon through the area between Knights and Kinkham Inlet. And they let me pick the route. I didn't think it would work. And that generation of pink salmon, which is the stock we were working on, survived better than ever recorded in the history of pink salmon. So the evidence I have to go on is scant, but I've also talked to Iceland that had fish farms and took them out. There was fish farms in Alberni Inlet and they were taken out. And now that sockeye run into Somas Lake and Great Central Lake is one of the best fisheries left in the South Coast. So I believe that the wild fish will come back, but there's always these tipping points. And if these viruses get lodged in the herring or the other species, yeah, we're playing with fire here without a doubt, and there's a clock ticking.
Hi. Something that didn't come up in the film or so far in the conversation tonight. A couple of weeks ago I saw an announcement in the newspaper that there was one closed container, native operated fish farm. And I'm hearing, revoke the licenses, I'm hearing, keep the industry happy. What is the status? Are those a viable alternative or not?
Yes, that's the NAMGIS project, and if you go to Save Our Salmon website, you can take a look at it. It is a viable option. The Norwegians don't want to do it, though. So I was part of an environmental coalition that included the T-Buck Suzuki and David Suzuki and Living Oceans and Georgia Strait Alliance and others. And a huge amount of money was put into making a deal with Marine Harvest that would gradually transition them to closed containment in a painless manner with help from the government. And in the end, Marine Harvest just reneged. That's what Georgia Strait says on their website. They reneged. I bailed out of the agreement because it was going to make the fish farms in my area 3 times as big. So the way it stands right now is the Norwegians refuse. They're the only farmers that never shovel their manure, and they don't want to volunteer to do that. So, but there's Canadians that want to do it. And really, there's some brilliant ideas around this. So Norway, the mother of fish farming, they think that farming algae is going to be the new oil for them. We know they're making a lot of money off the oil. So what about farming algae in tanks? You start with the food source for a fish, and then you farm the fish. And then you use the waste of the fish to put in your greenhouses or on your fields. And you take that commercial aquaculture system and you build a contained ecosystem in which that works, and you bring all those wild salmon back. Oh my gosh. Now rather than stealing from the future generations for a dirty little nasty industry that barely can employ anybody, low wages, failing on the global market, not paying dividends in most years, US-Canadian dollar parity has destroyed their profit margin. They're reviled around the planet. They're fishing hard to feed their fish. That price of food is going up. They are a losing proposition. I mean, Bloomberg, it has rated some of the companies as junk bonds. And for that, we're going to sacrifice our wild salmon?